Meeting to order. Oh, yep, we got recording going. Good. So welcome to what is old is often new again. Here we are back on Zoom for just a temporary thing here. So why don't we just start as usual? Does anyone have anything they want to review on the regular agenda?
I have nothing.
All right, I am sensing no. I see lots of shaking of heads, so I'm going to go with no at this point. We'll do mayor, city council, city manager issues and updates. I'm going to go based on how you are in the boxes on my screen, which means Councilmember Richardson, you are first.
You're muted, Councilmember.
Sorry, I was pulling up agendas. I don't actually have any updates today.
All that unmuting for
sorry.
That's okay. Councilmember Smith.
Yes, just a couple of things, just to remind everyone that the Webster Rock Hill Ministries will be distributing their Thanksgiving food baskets, food boxes this Saturday, probably from 10 to noon. We have exactly, I think it was 165 families that we're providing for. We had a community member to donate 70 turkeys. 70 turkeys.
Wow.
So most of the families will get a turkey or a roasting hen or chicken, something of that nature. So we're glad about that. And two, I also participated or visited the Waldorf school. They had like a little fall play that they did. So I was out there with them last Friday, I think Friday night, and I was glad to be there with them.
Good, thank you. Councilmember Bliss.
No updates, Mayor.
Councilmember Alexander.
Just one. The City Planning Commission met on the 7th, and they did approve the final development plan for the project that's at Moody and Lockwood. And so they're going to be, and it just kind of was the site plan that they haven't done the actual, everything else will go to I'm still learning the process, but that was approved. And I know they did, he was asked about, again, if he were in terms of the residential, because it will be mixed use commercial and residential, and if he was planning for it to still planning, because I know initially he said that his vision was for those to be condominiums for purchase. And so he said that's still the plan, but not set in stone. So it could possibly be some rentals as well, but that was basically a short meeting, and that was primarily the business that was taken care of there. I don't have anything for Parks and Rec. They met. I attended that meeting, but there wasn't a quorum, so there really wasn't much done.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Yes, so last week the Historic Preservation Commission met and did a presentation on Lovestone homes, which was recorded. It's a really good recording presentation of the history of Lovestone homes in Webster and kind of where things are in the process. We're looking into doing a city designation for city historical designation for those properties. So if anybody's interested in that, that recording is available. And then Green Space Met, they've got a lot of things coming up over the next month. And we have a presentation from them later, so we'll get kind of more of an update on what they're working on with that.
Great. Councilmember Franklin.
I would say he's not there.
Yeah, I will circle back here then. Peter, do we from the city attorney's office have anything going on here? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Nothing to update.
All right, thank you. Dr. Peoples.
Yes, Mayor, just two quick updates.
Sorry, I was getting a volume sound. Regarding the flood buyout process, and of course the council is aware of this, but we have been notified by FEMA that we were approved to move further into the process. Now that is not approval for funding, but we did submit additional applications for the 2 homes that have been designated as repetitive losses, and then for the 4 homes that were substantially damaged. We did not move further in the process with the homes that were not substantially damaged. And that decision, as you all know, was based on the council's November 1st discussion, whereas, no decisions were made in terms of funding. But if we were to move forward and if we were approved to move forward, the priority would be with the substantially damaged, as well as the 2 repetitive losses. So there's that update. And then in terms of a potential revenue update, we're researching additional information. With the passage of recreational marijuana, cities have the opportunity to pass an additional tax, I believe up to 3%. So we're going to bring some information on that forth as a revenue. I see Councilman Franklin as a potential revenue source should council be interested, and that I think would be on ballot as soon as April, should we move forward with that. Of course, we don't have any dispensaries at this point, so that would position us, if you will, for when that time comes. So again, we'll bring more information forward on that. So that's all, Mayor.
Sure, thank you. Councilmember Franklin, do you have any updates?
I don't. I apologize. I was on a conference call.
Multitasking, that's all right. You're with us now. So I do have a few. The Charter Review Advisory Board met yesterday. And after spending a lot of time not a lot of time, 2 meetings, that's exaggerating, but they've been getting themselves organized, but really started to dive into both some of the referrals that we made to them and then some of their own digging into the charter itself. And there was a good discussion, and I think they've come up with a plan that they're really going to try and hit the target of getting recommendations to us within a year. So good for them. That's, I think, ambitious, but I think it's a very good ambition on their part. I was pleased to do city chats last week. It's related to something we discussed. Well, we did a little bit about strategic planning. Dr. Peoples talked a little bit about, what was the other thing? Now I've forgotten. That's terrible. I didn't have to talk about it.
No, that's okay. We had Chief Curtis on, and we had a public safety update and discussion.
Yeah. That I knew about. There was something else I thought you did as well, but that's okay. The public safety update is related to, I was at the Metro Mayor's meeting. For those of you who don't know, those are all the mayors of cities of 10,000 or more. We had a presentation from the St. Charles Task Force trying to address car thefts and car clouding, breaking into cars essentially, or just opening and stealing from them. There is right now organizing a task force within St. Louis County this week. Some mayors and some chiefs of police were down in Jeff City talking to the Department of Public Safety about funding sources and partnerships there. So hopefully there'll be some movement on that task force relatively soon. A couple of just shout outs to people. Bennett Loving, who is a senior at Webster Groves High School, won his 3rd consecutive dive title. By 100 points. I mean, I think he scored close to 400 and he won by 100 points. It's just absolutely amazing. Also a shout out, I did go to Webster Sings. We know a talented community, but it is amazing how talented the singers are in our community. So hopefully that'll come back, and I encourage everybody to go the next time. And then just a reminder, the boys soccer team is in the Final Four beginning on Friday. We wish them well. I think that's it. Is there anything else anyone else has in terms of issue updates?
I just had a quick question. Has the Charter Review Advisory Board determined a regular meeting date, or what is their plan for meeting?
Yeah, so I'm going to let Dr. Peoples answer that because she's dug into the calendar here.
Okay.
Yes. So the meeting dates are on the website, and they're a little skewed through the beginning of the year just because holidays and there's some conflicts, but they've decided that they want to meet the 1st and 3rd Monday of every month. So they've laid out a pretty ambitious schedule to meet at least twice a month. And they're putting together that agenda schedule of review that goes along with each meeting date. And I think, Mayor, that we had their 3rd meeting yesterday. So they've really moved pretty quickly since they have been seated. So,
are those meetings recorded?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, then why don't we move on to our topics? Corin Purcell, who is a member of the Green Space Advisory Board, is with us. We appreciate you being with us to talk a little bit, just update us a little bit about what Green Space is working on so that we're fully versed in their activities. So I'm going to turn this over. I don't see Corin on my screen, but I'm going to guess that he's here somewhere.
Mm-hmm. He's on there.
Okay.
I'm here. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Mayor, thank you for that. So I'm here for just a brief update on how Green Space Advisory Commission has been doing in the past year and what we'd like to do in the upcoming year that we hope the council will find interesting. Let me start with this year. This year, in part because there was a push for the Mayors for Monarchs pledge, which Webster has signed off on. We promoted pollinator programs and we contributed funds and volunteer efforts in order to build on these programs and help keep Webster properties having a lot of pollinator plantings and a lot of native plantings that support these pledges and decisions made by the city. So that's gone well, and that's been in collaboration with Public Works and Parks. Of course, it's not, of course, not us. In addition to that, in order to better promote the success of things like that and to encourage citizens to participate as well, we had a speaker series, a number of related speakers who could contribute information on gardening for pollinators, gardening for butterflies, things like encouraging milkweeds, which many people know to do now, but other things too that we can do as citizens to help the city meet these goals and encourage our healthy populations of pollinators. So this went pretty well this year. Mr. Peterson, would you advance the slide for me? Thank you. In addition to the focus on pollinators that we had this year, we did things that the Green Space Commission often does, which is to encourage tree plantings and participate in tree plantings. And again, these are efforts done by Parks and Public Works that we are assisting with or participating with or otherwise encouraging. So there was an Arbor Day event where many of us were present. We helped to organize a Green Our City event in September, where we planted, I don't remember now if it was 13 trees or 17 trees on different citizen properties. You can see one in the lower right on the screen here. And my understanding is these are expected to contribute thousands of dollars in value to citizen homes, as well as being good for Webster's ecosystem and Webster's canopy coverage going forward. We gave it a couple of awards, including a tree of distinction to a really lovely black gum tree maintained by a citizen. And in October, we helped to organize a bunch of different volunteer events by citizens around Webster. You can see 6 of them listed here. I won't take up the time to review all 6, but the Stream King Cleanup is pictured in the upper right, one of the 6 events. And members of Green Space were present at all 6 events, helping to organize and keep things going. Mr. Peterson, the last slide, please. Great. So I'm sure all of you are well aware we had some flooding this year. The Green Space Commission was just as interested and concerned about the flooding as anyone else. And so we wanted to see if there's some way that we could help. A lot of citizens aren't fully aware that green spaces, including citizen yards, can actually help reduce flooding in the city. So although we don't have any way to do what the city can do, citizens can support city efforts by changing planting practices and otherwise by encouraging good practices that are going to create more absorbent spaces. Spaces like native gardens and other gardens absorb water much better than empty lawn and much, much better than pavement. So we have always, in a sense, been working on this, but we hope to work on it even more directly in the upcoming year. Our speaker series for the spring, we intend to be focused on watersheds and water quality to show the relationship of our green spaces to the watersheds in Webster. And we do have 3 different watersheds in Webster. Many of them are, I think, more healthy than people think. You can see there's a fish pictured here that comes out of Deer Creek. They are themselves thriving ecosystems, but they're affected by what citizens do. Yard runoff from citizen yards affects the water quality in places like Deer Creek. So we hope that by taking on the speaker series on watersheds, we can encourage citizens to take different actions to help with our water quality. And we think that can help at least a little bit with flooding. To pursue that goal further, we formed a subcommission with the Sustainability Commission. And we invited two experts, local experts from the community, to speak to us about stormwater management and about flooding and about both what the city can do and what citizens can do. Our hope was that we could maybe provide some advice to the city in terms of good steps to take, but we could definitely promote good citizen practices to support the city's decisions. The experts we spoke to were very complimentary to Webster Groves. They said some really positive things, that we've been proactive in dealing with stormwaters in the past, that our initial approaches have been good, and that in fact Webster is in a sense ahead of the game. We've done more planning than some municipalities, and we're having a conversation about this before some other municipalities. So that was good to hear. After speaking with them, they suggested to us that we start to put together a city stormwater management plan. But I recently heard that Mayor Arnold, did you find one? Is that?
I did, from 2002.
Yeah. So the Green Space Commission and Sustainability Commissions had planned to make a recommendation to the council that a stormwater management plan be developed, because having one allows us to show to funding and grant agencies progress that we're making and ways that we're taking steps, which according to the experts will help us build our plan and help us acquire funds for later work. But since we already have one, we instead hope to recommend that the plan be updated to reflect the current concerns and needs of the city. In addition to that, we have a new idea, which is to try to promote a no-mow month. A number of municipalities have gotten interested in doing a month of less lawn mowing, in part because it's thought to help ecosystems and help pollinator populations. But there is a bonus benefit here. Lawns absorb water less well than longer plants, taller plants. Less mowing might mean less flooding pressure. I can't tell you how much of a difference it could make, but we would like to think that a no-mow month would not only improve our water quality by having less lawn chemicals in our water and our pollinator populations, but might help us address the flooding just a little bit too from the citizen end of things. So we're hoping to request from council a temporary waiver on Ordinance 31-120, which is the turf grass height ordinance in Webster Groves. Even to waive this for 1 month would make a difference on these three issues. Extending it longer than that could also have other benefits for our pollinators or for stormwater management going forward. That is basically the update from the Green Space Commission.
Thank you so much, Corin. I appreciate greatly your work and the work of the commission. I'm going to open it up now for questions from other members.
It'd be great if they can start updating that plan from 2002, so we can start moving on that. That was a great idea.
Great, I'm glad to hear that.
Corin, thank you for presenting. Is there a fall month where some municipalities will do a no-mow month as well, or is it just at the beginning of the season?
Typically around the region, and in fact around the country, different municipalities have actually done April or May, but not typically the fall months. In the fall, instead, people recommend that you leave the leaves if you're going to try to take steps to improve lawns or water quality. Then leaving the leaves might make a bigger difference. That can also make your yard more absorbent to water.
Okay.
That was actually my question. I was asking about it was April primarily because it's early in the spring. That's when you typically have the pollinators and the bees and what have you.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what, okay. And so, but preferably it's 2, but definitely at least 1.
That would be terrific. Yes.
Correct. Well, I think Webster would have a fit if they had grass that tall for 2 months, wouldn't they?
So let me ask this question as a practical matter, and I don't know whether this goes to Peter or to Marie. What action do we take to do this? Is it a resolution just says, hey, we're not enforcing this through April, and then we do our social media stuff, or is it an actual change to the ordinance?
Go for it.
Okay. My recommendation would be a resolution. That way you're not changing the ordinance unless you were intending on permanently changing the ordinance. A resolution, I think, would be the better idea.
Okay, so since we're here and we're all talking about this, is there anyone who objects to the preparation of a resolution for our consideration for this no-mow April?
I have no objection.
I have no objections, Mayor.
Objection here.
All right.
Yep.
So let's do that so that we have plenty of lead time to make sure people understand why the grass is taller, as opposed to just thinking we're not doing it.
Yes, and we'll help with outreach on that.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I do want to, anybody else have questions for Corin here?
I was just going to say thank you for putting this together. It's really helpful. The Green Space Commission is so active and has so much great programming and provides a lot of education to our community, and I really appreciate that. On the no-mow thing, I think that for this year, like a resolution for April or this coming spring is a great idea, but I think it's worth looking at to see if we do want to reword it or make it a little bit more flexible so that people can still have like a nice property, but maybe don't have to keep their, keep a yard as part of it. So maybe not for this spring, but maybe this is like a trial and then we can look at it afterwards and see if we can make a longer change.
Yeah, and that may be one other option to partner with the Sustainability Commission, because I believe that was part of the overall plan, was to look at our ordinances and see if we were overly invested in grass, I guess is the way to put it. Other questions? Go ahead, David.
Is there a month usually that these communities do the no-mow?
The most common one is April, but some scientists have recommended that because St. Louis is a little warmer, our pollinators come out a little earlier. The May practice is common in New England. So in April here may be more benefit than May.
I was just thinking we get a lot of rain here also in April. And the grass is, it's going to be a chore to mow grass by May if you let it go a whole month. I wonder if May or June, like the warmer months, especially considering the carbon emissions from lawnmower, might be better that we actually go into the hotter months rather than the earlier months.
The advantage of the earlier months is twofold. On the one hand, the pollinator populations benefit much more from this early emergence period. Many of them struggle when they first emerge in the spring and into the middle spring. So support for them is most crucial at that time, early emergence. In addition, because the rain is often great in the spring, the potential to absorb some of the floodwaters is another advantage to having the grass early in that period. By the summer, when it's dry, there's little we can do in that regard. But in April and May, it could make a difference.
I'm just trying to think about this logically and trying to figure out how we get the most citizen participation. And I just fear that the March and April months is going to be difficult, just because I would think to myself, especially if I'm a 60-year-old man or woman, thinking, oh God, now I have to mow 4 feet of grass come May. It's just going to be that much more difficult.
Part of it is the science, though, that the pollinators overwinter in the ground or in dead matter.
Yeah.
And that's when they emerge. So I understand your point. I mean, I think if it gets that bad, we're not saying you can't mow in April, we're just recommending. So if anybody, sees an unruly lawn and they don't want to get out there 2 weeks from now, that they could go do it. It's up to them.
Corinne, I had a question when you're sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Sarah.
I just was wondering, is it homeowners primarily or only being targeted, or are we also looking at adjusting kind of the mowing habits of the city or businesses?
Well, it would be ideal if we could address all of the above. The Green Space Commission would probably recommend that. We didn't discuss that specific question.
Okay.
We only talked about addressing citizen practices. But if we could address city or business practices as well, that can have a big impact.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. And my question surrounded the same one with Sarah. Is there special areas or specific areas that we should focus on to try to get them to participate, like businesses, and especially in the areas that flood when it rains, so we can kind of make an greater effort to get their participation.
So I think what that means then is that we'll probably need a recommendation from Parks and Recreation, because there will be some things that we still have to mow in April. Ball fields for certain events, it comes to mind first. So I want to make sure that he's had the opportunity to make some recommendations around the city, because I agree we should participate. Just a matter of figuring out how is the best way for us to do that. Dr. Peoples?
Mayor, we can get that together. I think there's some meaningful ways that we can participate. I was just smiling as I was thinking about City Hall not being manicured, but we can, I'm not sure everybody will love that, but we can absolutely participate if we're encouraging others to do so. So we'll get a list together.
Yeah, I think we start early and explain why we're doing it, because we do get questions sometimes. Why didn't this get mowed, or why is it too long and stuff? But as long as the community knows this is what we're doing, hopefully they'll jump on board and do the same, follow the lead.
Well, I'm thrilled at the enthusiastic support from the council. Thank you all very much.
Sure. I'm going to switch topics here and go to the stormwater management plan. I know, Dr. Peoples, I sent it to you. I think it was while you were out of the office, so I have no idea whether you have a chance to look at it, and also to Director Reg. One of my questions, and this is for answer later, not for right now, is to what degree did that plan actually guide any decision making? Because it's, I found it because Mayor Welch left me 3 drawers full of reports of different kinds, and every time I go to the office, I try and pull out a few more and look through them, and I came upon the stormwater management plan. So I'd like some feedback about how that's informed us. And then we now have heard from both the Sustainability Commission and the Green Space Advisory Commission that they'd like us to at least update that. And if council is okay with it, I would suggest that we, have Director Reg look into what that means for us. Does anyone object to that first step?
Not at all.
I support your first step.
I guess I should be framing this in a positive way. Not do you object, but do you support this?
I support it, Mayor.
100%.
Yeah. All right. Great. Any last questions? I will just want to.
Can I just add my thanks to say thanks, Courtney, you did a great job and appreciate you giving the update.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate being able to speak.
Well, we are happy that you were here, and please give our best regards to everyone on the commission for their good work.
Yeah.
All right, I think we will now move on to the second topic, which is strategic planning review. This one's a little weird in terms of how we're doing it, because it's the council actually making the presentation. Typically we have people who are presenting things to us so that we understand what's going on. In this case, we're going to just update the community where we are in the strategic planning process. Now, you'll only hear from 3 of us in terms of the formal presentation today, all members of the strategic planning subcommittee. But that is not reflective of how we came to this process. If you went back and looked at our 2 meetings that were dedicated fully to strategic planning over the last 2 months, you will see lively discussion, occasionally a little swearing, so no children, please, unless their ears are covered, and lots of really, really good discussion. But it was time now that we move forward into a place where we're going to really need the public to participate with us. If you will advance, please. And so one of the things that we actually started our discussions with was, why do we do strategic planning at all? And one of the things that we know is that we have a lot of information floating around, from surveys, from studies we've commissioned, from election results. And the question becomes, how do you organize those ideas and actions, and how do you set priorities, and how do you decide how to invest your time and money in a way that is also very transparent to the community? And so that's what we're really trying to do, is put together a plan that gives us a way to move forward, that we can agree on the broad strokes and then come up with some specific ideas. Eric, next slide, please. I'm going to turn this over right away to Council Member Smith, who's going to talk about vision and mission statements.
Thank you, Mayor. And once again, we're really proud of the council for taking on this task. I think it gave us an insight and an opportunity to collaborate on a vision statement. You know, a vision statement describes ideals and priorities and create a picture for the future. It attracts the commitment, energizes the community. Also, it values the employees and gives them meaning and community members in their lives. It establishes a standard of excellence, and it bridges the present and the future. And I think that's a good step for the council to start making that step. Looking at our present and making sure that it leads to the future for benefits. Next slide, please. So we came up with a draft vision statement. It wasn't easy. It was something that we worked on, and we collaborated and came up with this draft statement. Webster Grove strives to be welcoming and a collaborative regional leader with a diverse community and connected neighborhoods where people and businesses thrive. We think that was all encompassing, that we showed all of the adjectives that we wanted to be, especially with the description of being a collaborative regional leader. I think it rings out very strong for Webster Groves. Next slide. Our next step was to create a mission statement. The mission statement defines the fundamental purpose of the organization. And we want to use to define, articulate, and create ongoing operations and culture for the organization. Next slide. In the draft mission statement that we came up with, Webster Groves provides residents, businesses, organizations, and visitors with excellent, fiscally sound, and responsive services to enrich and strengthen the community in which we live, work, and celebrate. Personally, I like the last statement, strengthen the community in which we live, work, and celebrate. I think that's what all city support and government is all about, where we can all celebrate our community. I think Sarah, Councilman Richardson is next.
Yes, I'm going to talk about our values that we identified, and then took some steps to define what those values are, and then a little bit about why they're important to Webster Groves. And kind of how they fit into those mission and vision statements, I think will be clear as well. So these are a set of beliefs on, that will guide our values and guide our decision making. So they're still in draft form because we're eager to hear some feedback, but the values that we have identified are people, excellence in service, diversity, equity, and inclusion, creativity, sustainability, and leadership. We'll go through them kind of individually so you can see what we considered the definition to be for each of these values. Webster Groves values people. We respect all individuals and the groups they form: families, schools, churches, neighborhoods, businesses, and other formal and informal organizations. We recognize the variety of priorities, resources, needs, and interests across the people of Webster and aspire to honor and be mindful of those differences as we make decisions together. This was important to us to be the first value on our list because it is obviously, it's the people that make up Webster Groves, and it is the people that really guide our decisions. And this was, I think, unanimously decided to be sort of the first value on our list. If you want to go next. Webster Groves values excellence in service. We are committed to excellence in service for all through good stewardship of our assets, investment in employees, data-informed decisions, and organizational adaptability. We feel like all of these things are important when we're talking about how we provide excellent services, and they're the ways that we really do think about the service that we provide. And we are lucky to have great employees who help to carry out all of these items. Here, if you want to go to the next one. Webster Groves values diversity and inclusion. We seek to create a community-wide culture in which we appreciate differences, provide equitable access to services, facilities, opportunities, housing, and employment, promote an environment of respect and dignity, and strive to be a place where all residents, employees, businesses, organizations, and visitors are valued, respected, and supported. There's a lot there, but it's important to us that this be kind of a wide definition, and in all the areas that we can touch, we look to foster that diversity, equity, and inclusion as a value. Webster Groves values creativity. Our heritage is rooted in creativity, and creativity is a cornerstone of our present and future. We embrace originality of thought and expression in all its forms, viewing and solving complex problems with imagination and innovation, fostering cultural dialogue, and promoting physical and emotional well-being. We value the many creative practitioners and learners who bring vitality to the lives of Webster Groves residents every day. And we felt like this was an important thing to include because it is one of the things that a lot of our residents and those who come to Webster Groves really note about Webster Groves, and notice that there is a real area kind of focus on creativity here, and we wanted that to be recognized as part of our values. Webster Groves values sustainability. We endeavor to balance our human, economic, and natural resources in order to fulfill the needs of the present community and ensure abundance for future generations. This one's kind of simple and to the point, but it's an important one as well, and is something we also try to keep in mind in all our decision making. And I think we're seeing sustainability kind of rise to the top of our list more and more with the issues that we've been facing as a community. So it seemed very important to us to have this on our list of values. And finally, Webster Groves values leadership. Throughout our city, leadership is a process of ongoing positive influence, maximizing the mutual efforts and goals of the community and region. Leaders foster forward movement rooted in trust and transparency. It was important to us that we looked beyond just City Hall for that leadership, and then that we recognize the leaders throughout our community and make sure that they're kind of included in this, this value as well, because it's something else that Webster Groves is lucky to have is a lot of resident involvement and a wide range of different types of leaders throughout our community. That's our list. I think I'm giving it back to the mayor.
Yes, thank you. Before we talk about next steps, if there are council members who would like to make some comments about this, please go right ahead.
I appreciate the subcommittee's work on this. I know it's been a lot of work on our own half, but I can only imagine the amount of work that you guys have put into it. And I greatly appreciate you guys taking the reins and driving this this car, ship, boat, whatever it is.
I'll echo that. This looks great. I mean, I know we worked on all this together, but it looks so polished and
yeah,
consumption. So I appreciate all the work that you've done before our Saturday meetings and in the afternoons too.
I think of the process that we've gone through so far. You know, it has been a series of meetings, and we have organized for ourselves, and then in order to work with the whole council. And I think it's really reflected in how tightly put together everything is. And it's just good to see or think about the loose thoughts that we had and the words on the white paper. And, you know, really we worked together a lot to formulate these values and definitions. And I think everything looks pretty solid. So I do think it's in a really good place to present to the community and get some feedback and hear everybody else's thoughts. And also maybe hear some of the new ideas that may come out of what we have now.
And I also really want to thank our facilitators in helping us to really structure and organize this and put it together. Bud and Sarah.
Sarah Riss and
Sarah
Bud
Riss
Balongo.
and Bud. You're right. That you know, because there were just a lot of ideas and a lot of information, things flowing, but for the way that they helped us organize and structure and pull this together, and then to see it flow, it looks like it was effortless the way it was presented here, but there was a lot of work that went into it with the whole group as well as with the committee. So thank you everyone for your work.
All right, I will actually extend that thanks also to City Manager Peoples and Assistant City Manager Peterson, because they also were important contributors to our process here thus far. So let's talk about the next steps. I mean, this doesn't matter. It doesn't work unless we have a community that supports what we're doing here with this particular endeavor. And so what's next is that we need people to give us their feedback. And that means members of the community, members of the community, both residents, some people who serve on boards and commissions, business owners, and certainly our employees on these values, mission statement, and vision statement, so that we then can adjust our thinking, our work with that feedback. So Eric, if you will go ahead. There is currently there is a strategic planning page on our website. You see it up there, webstergrossmo.gov/strategic planning, and there you can reach a survey that you can give feedback on our work to this point. That survey will be open until December 16th, and we'll push out some reminders and some encouragement for people to fill it out. And if you don't want to do the online survey, we're going to get some paper surveys to the customer service desk at City Hall and also to the rec center. So there is no requirement that you do it online. So please, please, please go ahead and participate in that survey so that we are confident that we're moving in a direction that the community can support. Next slide, please. So what happens next after that? So our next session, what we will end up doing is review survey data. We're working on strategic goals that really specify what we want to do next, and the tactics that will help us achieve those strategic goals. So the next most important thing that we have to do is to set a time for us to have another work session. And I'm going to propose that council check calendars, and we'll set, look quickly if you can, January 21st or 28th. I think if the weekend before that is a holiday weekend, Martin Luther King Day weekend. I don't think we wanted to do this on the Saturday of holiday weekend. If some of you want to work, then sorry. But if you will, is there anybody who knows that we're going to have to rule out both of those days immediately?
I'm going to have to say yes, that I can't do either of those.
I can't do the 28th.
Okay, so then I'll ask Katie.
Back. I won't be here. I can be by Zoom.
I think that's going to be a challenge to have anybody to do this kind of work via Zoom. So what I'll do is I'll have Katie suggest some other dates. I guess one question is, do you think we need as big a block of time? Or, you know, can we schedule a couple hours and maybe do it in the evening?
Well, is the planning committee going to be meeting beforehand? I guess I don't know what the agenda is going to be to say whether we need a block of time.
Yeah, I would suggest the subcommittee do meet and draft out some goals to try to hammer out like we did last time with the mission and visions and present it to the rest of the council. That may save some time.
I don't want to go too far into 2023 and lose momentum. So maybe we just think about doing these in smaller chunks now of time so that we try and get it done. So if it's all right with you all, I'll ask Katie to identify some other times that we might have an evening 2-hour window that might work. All right, no one, okay. Everyone seems to be nodding.
That yes. Sounds good. Yeah.
I think it's all going to depend on how many goals we have and what the goals are trying to cover.
Right, and we do know that there's some draft out there from the subcommittee right now, and I do think it's important that the subcommittee, you know, do some work on those before bringing them back to the full council. So we probably don't want to meet before mid-January anyway, so the subcommittee can have time to actually do the work after the survey results come in, because we're also going to have to compile those results in a meaningful way.
Mm-hmm. Good. I'll get with Sarah and Pam to see if we can settle on a date to kind of look at those.
All right, sounds good. Any other comments on strategic planning? Okay, we do have some appointments to boards and commissions to make. They are reappointments rather than new appointments. Mark Vogel, who has served one term as an alternate on the Architectural Review Board, is seeking reappointment. Who is our ARB person? Do you have any comments to make about that?
No, he's seeking to be reappointed as an alternate. That's all. I just wanted to clarify.
I believe that is true.
Okay. That's good.
All right, are we in favor of this reappointment? How about just a thumbs up if you're good, yeah, okay, great. And then Thomas Waltz, who has served one term on the Board of Adjustment, would like to be reappointed. We don't have a liaison to the Board of Adjustment, so no real feedback to be given there. Thumbs up if you think that reappointment should go forward. Okay, some of you didn't hold it up high enough for me to see. There we go. Thank you very much. All right, so we will have those two reappointments, and I do not think we have time for a closed session. I don't even think we have a closed session, so we don't need to worry about that. We can't start until 7:30, our regular meeting, so take yourself a 10-minute break and we will come back and do our regular meeting. We are a model of efficiency tonight, I have to say. Thank you very much. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Western Grove City Council for November 15th. We will have an opportunity for community comments. That's very early in the agenda. Since we were all on Zoom, that means you will use the raise your hand function and you will then be called on to speak at that point in our agenda. Please limit yourself to 3 minutes. We always like to hear written comments, but none of those are read during the city council meeting, but they are distributed to all council members. So I believe we can start with the roll call.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Arnold.
Here.
Councilmember Bliss. Councilmember Franklin.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Alexander.
Here.
Councilmember Richardson.
Here.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Here.
6 present, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have new business?
Mayor, do we have the remarks?
Excuse me?
The remarks of community.
Yeah, I just talked about how great they are and I skipped right over them. Thank you very much. Please, members of the community, know that I really do want to hear from you. I just can't look at Zoom and read an agenda at the same time, apparently. If you would like to make a comment, I know we do have people from the Arts Commission here who have alerted me that they would like to make a comment, but anyone else, please use that raise your hand function. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, we have one hand up. It's Judith Mann. Are you prepared, Madam Mayor?
We are ready to go.
All right. Ms. Mann, just unmute and go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All right. So I am reading a letter prepared on behalf of the members of the Webster Groves Arts Commission. To the mayor and members of the City Council, we, the undersigned, members of the Webster Groves Arts Commission, propose to name the sculpture garden in honor of former Mayor Jerry Welch. Jerry was vital to the realization of this project, which began with a visit to the studio of artist Catherine Mogel in December 2010 and continued through the opening of the garden in May 2014 and the installation of its lighting in 2017. Jerry Welch was integrally involved in the project at every step of the way. The Catherine Mogel bird flower was the spark that inspired the sculpture garden, but it was Jerry's leadership that made it happen. She shepherded early discussions that began with selecting an appropriate site for the sculpture. Jerry was the cheerleader who encouraged us to think beyond simply one site, to recognize that this could be something larger, a sculpture garden. Once that became, Jerry worked with SWT through several stages of the design, providing a simplified yet functional plan. She worked with the Department of Parks and Recreation to bring the garden part of the park to fruition. She also brought to the commission the idea to pursue loans for the two Ernst Trovas from St. Louis County. Under her stewardship, our application was accepted, adding two significant pieces of sculpture by a major artist to the park. Members of the commission, as well as the staff of the City of Webster, contributed time and effort to the creation of this project. However, it was Jerry's wise guidance and sound leadership, not to mention her palpable excitement, that ensured the successful completion of this wonderful city asset. There is no more fitting way to mark her enormous contribution than to name the park in her honor, the Jerry Welch Sculpture Garden. Signed, John Ahern, Marilyn Bradley, Katie Cahoon, who's here tonight, I believe, Alex Elmstead, Dottie Englis, Rob Longstreet, myself, Judith Mann, Patrick Murphy, also I think is in on this Zoom call tonight, and Jan Shapiro.
Thank you very much, Judy. And council members, you did get a written copy of that as well, if you'd like to refer to it. I believe Mr. Buck has his hand up at the moment.
Correct. Mr. Buck, go ahead and unmute and you can start. Dave, you'll have to unmute.
Dave, you're still not unmuted.
Eric, can you unmute him?
I can only ask to unmute him, so he has to do that himself.
Eric, why don't you go ahead and ask, because I think it gives him a prompt that might make it easier for him to unmute.
I have asked.
Thank you. All right, Dave, I'm not sure what our technical difficulties are because it looks like you almost unmute and then it goes back. I'm going to move on here, and please, as is your usual practice, send us a copy of your written comments, and if you send one to Katie, we'll make sure it gets added to the minutes of this meeting, since this is a technical issue. All right, moving on to new business. I can really go there now, right? We have no other hands?
No other hands, Madam Mayor.
Does anyone have new business? I'm going to sneak one thing in that should have came in updates. You should have received an invitation from me to welcome home how thoughtful housing policy promotes thriving communities, which is a Washington University event on December 15th at 9 a.m. Several mid-county suburbs are the focus of the study that these graduate students are doing this semester. And they're going to introduce 4 different policy areas for making both affordability and welcoming more part of how we municipalities do business. So if you did not receive the invitation, let me know and I will make sure you get it. And I hope to see some of you. I do understand it's a work day. So if some of you can come for just a portion of it, feel free to do that. It's not, you don't have to make the full 3-hour commitment if your work requires or other things require that you can't. But so thank you for indulging me in that. We have new business. Councilmember Smith, would you call for the first and second reading of bill number 9204?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the first and second reading of bill number 9204.
Mr. Bruntrigger.
No, that's me. I'm trying to pull up my agenda.
Madam Clerk, do you want me to do the first reading while he pulls it up?
Yes, why don't you go ahead and we'll let him do the second.
Got it. Bill 9204, first reading, an ordinance approving a parking lot lease by and between the Webster Groves Presbyterian Church Association of Webster Groves, Missouri, a benevolent corporation as lessor, and the city of Webster Groves as lessee, pertaining to the property located at 41 West Moody Avenue and other actions related thereto.
Do we have any questions, discussion, comments? All right, Mr. Bruntrigger, would you like to do the second reading?
Yes. Second reading, an ordinance approving a parking lot leased by and between the Webster Groves Presbyterian Church Association of Webster Groves, Missouri, a benevolent corporation as lessor, and the city of Webster Groves as lessee, pertaining to the property located at 41 West Moody Avenue and other actions related thereto.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember Richardson, would you call for the, well, actually, does anyone want to remove anything from the consent agenda? No? Then would you please, Councilmember Richardson, call for the approval of the consent agenda?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like for the approval of the consent agenda.
Wow, do you have like a voice thing on there? Is there a second? We need a second here.
I'll second.
Second. I enjoyed that.
You can't hear it. It's like it's a little garbled. Your voice is like it's from a Star Wars thing. It's kind of cool, actually.
It's pretty cool.
Your sons will like the recording. All right, so let's have a vote on the consent agenda, please.
On the consent agenda, Councilmember Franklin?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Yes.
Councilmember Richardson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd?
Yes.
Mayor Arnold?
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss absent.
Yes. All right, we have made 2 appointments to boards and commissions, Mark Vogel to the Architectural Review Board and Thomas Waltz to the Board of Adjustment. I believe that ends our agenda. It means I didn't jinx us.
I'm having withdrawal symptoms.
You know, don't get used to it, folks. This is our timing, given the water main break, our timing was actually very good. But yes, we have lots of work still to do this year. So enjoy it while you can.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what do we do now?
If we were all at City Hall, I'd say let's go have a beer, but
yeah.
I'm not leaving my house, guys. Sorry. All right.
This has been
Good night.
That part. So that's the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
All right.